On this next batch, 558, we're doing another batch of the dry hash brown potatoes. So we're doing 16 boxes, which would be the equivalent of 16 wet pounds. So we'll do 4 of them on each tray. We know we can go 6 on a tray without a problem, but 2 things. 1, we have 16 boxes, and 2, if we do 4 on a tray, they stay thinner and they dry even faster. So I don't need to worry about weighing them till we get them on the tray. I already know the weights of the trays, so I've got the tare weights, and then we'll be able to work that out. So we'll load 4 of them on each one, on each tray, and go from there. So we've got all 4 trays, and we'll just pour 4 of these on each tray. And I'm not even going to bother with parchment, because the worst you get is a little bit of dust with these. The cleanup is nothing. The next batch after this currently is planned to be some candy pieces that will have parchment to make sure nothing sticks. But for this, it really doesn't matter, because we can just pour these into bags. Just kind of flatten those down just to kind of even them out. And then get all 4 of them filled, and then we'll be back to weigh them. So we'll be right back. They're all on the trays, and we'll get the weights on these now. Tray 1, 1224 gross weight. Tray 2, 1223. Tray 3, 1216. And 1224. Add thermometers into them, and then those are ready to go into the freeze dryer. So we'll go get them in. Okay, so the trays are all ready. Ignore that spot on tray 3, because that's an experiment for the next batch. So you never saw anything. These are not the trays you're looking for. Freeze dryer is, of course, already cold and ready, because we never stopped it or defrosted it after the last batch, because there was so little moisture in it. So these are ready to go in, and the machine is already below 0, and the thermometer underneath is lower than -30 already. And because these are dry foods, there's so little water in them already, it's going to be done by tomorrow. Plus, I don't even know if we need to do any freezing on them per se, because the lack of water in them. But the machine itself does need to get cold. So I need to make sure the chamber gets down to the 40 below it needs for the freeze drying. We'll get them in there and give it at least a couple hours of additional freeze time to make sure that the barrel itself, the chamber itself, gets back down to temperature. So let's get them in. So, and it's definitely cold in there. Looks like we have a ring around the seal already, so we've got a good seal. Not going to have air going through there and making a frozen ring on there that then has to melt when it starts. So everything's ready. It'll start in a couple of hours, and we'll see you tomorrow. So don't go away, we'll be right back. The hash browns have been in there for almost 19 hours, and it shows 22 minutes left. I'd given it an extra 3 hours last night so that it would be still going this morning. It went through the small batch cycle, and so it was going to be done very, very quickly. So it could be done already. The potatoes don't have a lot of moisture in them. So we'll get them out, weigh them, put them back in, and check them in 2 more hours or 3 hours and find out how they're doing. All the trays are at least 110 degrees. The bottom one's showing about 110. The others are above 120. The machine says 112 and the vacuum pressure of -6 right now. So we'll use the down arrow and bypass the rest of it so we can get them out and check them. Open the drain valve. So tray 1, and that tray is nice and toasty. So 1204, So that's down about 30 grams. And tray 2, 1206, also down close to 30 grams. Now we're going to put this one up there. We're going to switch those positions, put 2 up on top, and tray 1 down 1. And we'll switch these 2 also. So tray 3, remember, don't look, 1208, and tray 4. Tray 4 is definitely the warmest one I've taken out so far. 1213, and it was bouncing up. So this will go back in. So tray 4 I'm going to put up on this rack. And tray 3 at this one. Okay, we'll get that closed back up. We'll get the drain valve closed. So with that reclosed, we'll restart it. We'll give it, I'll put 3 hours on it in case I can't be back in 2. In fact, I'll put 4 hours on it in case I can't be back on time. So I'm going to add more dry time. I did close the drain valve. Continue. And I'm not worrying about the cooling because I got the fan blowing on it. And go. And then I'll add the extra time. Okay, so I've got 4 extra hours in case it takes that long to get back. The timer's down to the last half hour now, so we're going to take them out and check them to make sure that they didn't lose any weight. If they didn't lose any weight, we can use the earlier time as the amount of time that it took for this batch. If they lost more weight, we'll put them back in. This batch of hash brown seems to be wetter than any of the previous ones we've done. So we'll know when we get done, we can do the math on them. Okay, so we'll get them out. I'll use the down arrow past the rest of that time. Open the drain valve. And we'll get them out and check them. So starting with tray 1, it's very toasty warm. Yeah, it's very warm. Definitely a warm tray. So 1201, so that lost another 3 grams, 1201, and it's bouncing up to the next one. So it's lost about 3 grams. We'll probably put them back in. Tray 2, 1204, so it's only 1 gram. So this one was on the top shelf before and it's lost about 3 grams. This was on the second shelf originally and it's only lost about 1 gram. So they may be done. It might have just been that one. So let's check tray 3 and it's 1207. So that's only 1. Tray 4, and that's only about 1. Okay, I'm going to call it good and go ahead and take them out. So 3 of the trays lost about 1 gram or maybe a little less than 1 gram in like 3.5 hours, and the one lost about 2 to 3 grams. I'm going to call that good enough now and take them out. So I'm going to leave this running again. I'll go ahead and put this in place because we'll be putting another low water batch in here next. That was part of that experiment one on tray 3, which you haven't seen. Okay, so I will make sure that we've got a seal ring around there so we don't have ice on the seal. Okay, that looks good. And I'll get these over to bag and come back and we'll get the time and the power usage, and then do a restart. With this batch, because they all lost a little bit, I'm going to use this time as the time that it took to dry these. So I'm going to put 22 3/4 hours. And then, because we're doing another low water batch after this, I still don't have to defrost. So I'm going to put no defrost. And then I'm going to restart it with customize, start, and continue. Now we'll go get the power usage. The power usage for this batch of hash browns was 13.25 kilowatt hours. We'll reset it, get it ready for the next batch. And now on to the bagging. We'll get the weights on these and then get them in the bags. So tray 1, and each one of these trays was 4 bags. So we'll put them back into 4 bags, or at least very evenly. 1193, tray 2, 1196, tray 3, 1189, and tray 4, 1203. So we'll get the final weights and find out what we have. With the hash browns, there were 16 boxes, and it lost a total of 106 grams of water. That's 6 2/3 grams per box. So far this is the most water that's come out of the hash browns. So this particular batch had a little bit more moisture in than previous ones. They've been 5 to 6 range, and so this has another part of a gram per box. But now they're very dry. So now we can get them bagged. We need to bag these in about 112.8 grams per bag. So on these, I'm going to start using more and more printed labels because that way if I give them away, it will tell other people what to do with them. I mean, I know how to deal with each thing that I've done, but sometimes when I give them away, it's hard to explain what to do with them. So I'm going to start adding tags to the bags. And I'm not using stickers because stickers tend to cost a lot. Almost forgot something. So I will still use a felt pen and write the batch number on the bag. That way if I lose this tag, I still have the batch number. I can refer back to my notes and I'll know what this is and what to do with it. Otherwise, I have the batch number, what it is, the date it went into the freeze dryer, what it weighed before, and then what to do with it. In this case, you add 12 ounces of water because this was a dry thing to begin with. And then it's ready to use. So we'll get these in the bags and then get ready for the next batch. I need 1/4 of this tray for each bag. And that's not very much. It might have been better to use a pint bag. So I think that's what I need to do for the rest of them. So I'll take the ones that I haven't labeled and I'll go ahead and make them into, or use pint bags. There we go. And yeah, you could just pour the water right in here and rehydrate it right in here. I guess that would be one reason to use this bigger bag. If I use the smaller bag, there might not be enough room to do that. With this, there's plenty of room for it. So I guess I'll go ahead and keep using these bigger bags. I'm trying one of the pint bags. I think it's plenty big. So pint bags will work well. I don't know if I can rehydrate it in this, but it fits, and so that's good for storage because that way it's quite a bit smaller. I'll be back in a minute. With all those filled, now we'll go on to adding the oxygen absorbers and then closing them up and sealing them. I'm using 300 cc oxygen absorbers for all the bags, the pint bags and the quart bags. I'll put 1 oxygen absorber in each bag, and with these quart ones, they're not as full. I can just drop it in I don't have to worry about tucking it down the side. But on these pint ones, I kind of need to make sure that I kind of tuck them down to make sure that it doesn't end up in the seal area. Those still need one. These push out any extra air and zipper them shut. And if you have a vacuum chamber type sealer, you could use that, or any other kinds of vacuum type sealer. We'll get oxygen absorbers in these last ones. As soon as those are closed, then we'll get them sealed. And now the heat sealing. I'm just going to make sure that I've got a smooth flap at the top, and I'm sealing as high up as I can. And I'm going to seal it twice to make sure it's completely up to temperature and melting it shut properly without over melting. Okay, so a good solid seal on there with room for 2 or 3 more tries if that one fails, or if I want to open it and use part of it and reseal it. So we'll get all of those closed. All right. With all those sealed, last thing I want to do before they get sent away, because I'm not storing these aren't mine, so these will get sent back. But the last thing I want to do is add a gross weight of each bag onto the bottom corner of the bag. So I'll weigh each one. This was 137, and write it on the bottom corner of the bag. So if moisture starts getting in and it will start gaining weight, and I'll be able to know by setting it on the scale. So I'll weigh each one of them and then bag them up to be sent away. And that's all there is for these. So I'll finish getting those marked and then bag them up. So on to the next batch. I don't have to worry about the freeze dryer defrosting because the low water batch of these, so it's ready to go. We'll get it loaded in just a few seconds. So we'll be right back on the next video. Wow, I am so far behind on these batches. It's been a month since we've completed this. I'm going to go ahead and rehydrate one of these. I got this from my sister. And from number 1 child, I borrowed this sandwich press thing, and I'm going to cook the hash browns on this, because that way I can get them thin and a nice crisp layer on both sides, because that's the way I like hash browns, is nice and crisp. I've got boiling water, and I'm just going to take the top off of this. And I'll get the oxygen absorber out of there. And these are absolutely delicious this way. They're kind of like little potato chips, very crunchy potato chips. I'm supposed to add 12 ounces of water minimum, and that's to get it back like the box would be. But you could also add more and then just drain it, because on the box the instructions say to pour it in there, wait 12 minutes or so, 10-12 minutes. I think it says less time, but we put 12 to 15 because we like more time. And then to drain it and cook it. So I've got boiling water. I better make sure it's still hot enough. And now it's bubbling. And I'm just pouring it right down into the middle of the potatoes. And I'm going to try to close it without having it spew out the top. And we'll set a timer for 15 minutes and we'll come back and check it. I think I'm going to tip it first to mix it like this. Okay, we'll be back in about 15 minutes. Okay, it's 15 minutes later. I'm going to take this out and drain it. I've got that sandwich press thing preheating. So let's get these out and see what it looks like. Okay, they look great. They feel perfectly rehydrated. Get them out of there, see how much water drains out of that. And the problem with putting them in a bag or leaving them in the bag is you do end up with bits in the bottom. So I'm going to try to tap those out of there. That got almost everything out of there. It's a pretty well cleaned bag. So that worked out well. And there's nothing draining out of it yet. So even though I put in a couple extra ounces of water, it seems to have absorbed it all. Oh, that's good. Holy moly. That is delicious just the way it is. Wow. And because they were pre-cooked. That's good. So you could eat them just like that and do nothing more with them. That is excellent. That is really, really good. And again, this is number one child, so I haven't used it much. This might be the first time I've ever used it all by myself. I'm going to use a little bit of vegetable oil on it. I could use the spray, but I don't want to spray it on there. Wipe it down real quick. Help keep it from sticking, even though it's a non-stick coating, it looks like. And of course, if you've seen one of the earlier videos where we did some hash browns, we added eggs and bacon right into it. Okay, well, let's see what that does. I'm going to give that a few minutes before I even check it. Let's give that a check. Okay, so it stuck a little bit on here, so I probably should have oiled it a little bit more. Yeehaw! That's pretty good. Give that a little bit more. Okay, let's see if we can get that out of there. So I should have oiled it more, that's for sure. Other than that, I think it's not too bad. And I'm not sure if I can get that out of there. I was hoping I could slide it off in one piece, but apparently I needed to have oiled it a bunch more. So pretty good. And the ones I did with eggs and things stuck together better. This is pretty good. Excellent flavor. They rehydrate great. They taste great. And again, you don't even need to cook them anymore. They're great right out of the bag. Got that oiled considerably more than the first try. I'll go ahead and put the rest of this in there and do a little one in the middle here. It had virtually no water come out. So that's the bottom line. This stuff works great. It should hold up a long time. So that's it for this one. We'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.